All right. Hello, everyone. This is Forlorn Scout. I have, in fact, not died or disappeared or, whatever other theories that may have been concocted by what few people watch my videos. Um, I do apologize for my extended absence. What's it's been? What has it been now? It's been over a month. I don't actually remember the last time I recorded. I think was at the start of January sometime. And I had intended to record some, at least a few more videos, but I ended up getting really busy with work. The job I currently work is there was a quite a lot of work that ended up being suddenly put on my desk, so to say, and so I had to deal with that. And then on top of that, I'm also looking for another job because the current job I do, for one, isn't going to last forever, and it also is not in my particular field. Because I have a degree, I may as well try and get a job with the degree I have. However, regardless, enough whinging about that. Again, I apologize for the extended absence, and don't fear, because I know while I was rambling, I'm sure some of you may have noticed this is not a Cause of Doom video. It's also not a Dol Amroth video. It's not even Divide and Conquer. And you might ask, well, why is that? Well, while I haven't had time to record, because you may be surprised, recording and then editing videos, and then at least for me, uploading those videos, it takes a while, which is why I haven't been able, mostly why I haven't been able to do it, is because it just takes so long. Well, not so long. It just takes, the actual recording part doesn't take that long, but having the time to edit and then upload those videos takes a while, and I just didn't think I had the time to do it. But regardless, your eyes do not deceive you. This is a wholly different game, a different mod. This is, of course, as it says on the title there, this is Empire at War Expanded, Thrawn's Revenge, Imperial Civil War, which is a mod for Empire at War Forces of Corruption, which of course is a Star Wars game. It's a good game. This is a great mod. It's a great mod. It's since I got into the I got into the mods of Empire at War, this has probably been my favorite mod. But regardless, you might be asking, well, why is this not a Dol Amroth video? Why is this not a Cause of Doom video? Well, it's not because I'm ending either of those series. I intend to do a few of those videos. I have some time finally to do stuff, and I intend on trying to bulk record as many episodes, especially for those two series, as I possibly can. It's just I wanted to do another series, and I had gotten into this mod again, and with what little free time I had re-downloaded the game, and I decided that, while I'm playing it, I may as well make some videos about it. And so I thought, well, why not? Can just try a few videos out and see what happens. And so, just to kind of quickly explain the mod, what it is for those who don't know, it is a mod set in the Legends universe, which is not, it's not the current Disney canon for Star Wars. It's set around the kind of collection of books, comics, and other stories and other material that were that were set. Sorry, I had to yawn there. Um, that were set post Battle of Endor. So second Death Star gets destroyed, and Emperor Palpatine dies. Everyone's dancing with the EAWX at the end of the movie. Well, after that, um, things get a little crazy in Disney canon, but things, I'd say, in a lot of ways, get equally crazy in Legends. It's very different. So essentially, just to kind of briefly go over what happens, the Emperor dies, um, and essentially the Empire starts to fragment into various warring factions. Essentially, um, there's various Imperial military leaders who have some intention of trying to become emperor. Essentially, the best way I can describe it from like a historical perspective, um, for those who may have a little bit of a better understanding of it that way, is it's kind of like warlord period China, where you have the central government, which is represented by the actual main empire faction. But then you have various there's lots of unplayable warlord factions in the stories, but the main playable warlord factions are the Eridu Authority, or Iriadu Authority. I don't actually know the proper way to pronounce it, but I mean, it's a made up word, so it's kind of like whatever. There's Greater Maldrud. I should say the Eridu Authority is ruled by Superior General Sandra Del Vardis. And then you have Greater Maldrud, which is ruled by Trenton Teradoc, and then um, part of the faction in the game is also run by Teradoc's brother, Kosh Teradoc. Although I don't think he was technically um, their warlord states were part of the same quote unquote nation. Because I think Kosh had his own warlord state, but regardless. And then there's the Pentastar Alignment, ruled by Grand Moff Artus Kane. And then there's Zinj's Empire, which, to no surprise, is ruled by Warlord Zinj. And Warlord Zinj is kind of interesting because when you're talking about these Imperial Warlords, Zinj is kind of the sorry, I had to yawn there again. I'm a little tired, but I'm pushing through. Anyway, Warlord Zinj. When you talk about Imperial Warlords, Zinj is kind of the main big one because for a while, at least early on, because you can see these eras, which go from 1 to 7, Zinj's empire disappears at Era 2, or after Era 2, which is when he gets killed. Spoilers. He gets killed, and then his empire just kind of disintegrates. But he is kind of the one that kind of where the term warlord kind of comes from. But all the and the kind of interesting thing about the mod is all the warlord factions, they all have their own kind of interesting lore, and they all have their own rosters, which are all fairly unique. Obviously, since they are all Imperial factions, there's only so much you can do. It's not like you can have completely unique Imperial factions. It is what it is. Of course, then you also have the New Republic, which is, I think, there's not any explanation needed. They're the rebels who then become the New Republic. And then there's Corporate Sector Authority, which is, they are essentially, it's kind of like I guess it's kind of what it sounds like. It's essentially like a sector of space ruled by a bunch of these corporations. big corporations. And then there's the Hapes Consortium, which is not in Disney canon, I don't think. The Hapes Consortium, I don't actually know a lot about, but they're a faction that's kind of in the middle of space, and they only appear kind of after the Emperor dies and some of this stuff happens. But essentially, the Hapes Consortium, I think, were these groups of people who got like lost in this nebula, and they found some planets kind of like past the nebula, and they settled them, and they were like pirates, I think, at some point. But they were very isolationist. They're like from like the real old Republic, so like a couple thousand years before the Battle of Yavin, is when I think Hapes started to be a thing. But anyway, I don't actually know a lot about Hapes. They're kind of a cool faction. They're very unique. Their ship designs are unique. It's a completely unique faction because they were, isolated for such a long time. But anyway, I should explain what are we doing? What faction are we playing? For one, I'm not actually going into the campaign from the screen. I already have a save loaded that I'm going to load into. And so we're doing known galaxy large, which is 158 planets. And we're going to be playing the Pentastar Alignment. And you might be looking at the thing and it says, well, Forlorn Scout, it says Pentastar Alignment is rated easy. Are you doing easy factions now? Well, I guess. The Pentastar Alignment is my favorite faction in the mod. Once we get into the save, I will kind of go over some more stuff with Pentastar Alignment, but it's always been kind of my favorite faction. It's actually, I think, one of the first Warlord factions in the mod, and so it's just kind of it's always been one of my favorite factions, and I always play it when I come back to this mod. But regardless, let's see here. I'm going to load into the save. All right, so here is the Pentastar Alignment. I'm just going to unpause quickly so the game can kind of load up a little bit, and then I will pause once again. There we go. All right, so we are playing the Pentastar Alignment, which is this little blue faction up here. And so why did I choose the Pentastar Alignment? It's not because they're an easy faction. I would say they're an easy faction in regards to map placement. It's really, you only have one direction to worry about, which is the main thing at the start. But regardless, why did I choose the Pentastar Alignment as the faction I wanted to do for this series? Why did I not do like Zinj, which is this faction here? Why did I not do Greater Maldrude? Why did I not do New Republic, or like Corporate Sector Authority, or Raidu, or whatever? Well, the answer to that is I like some of the lore around the Pentastar Alignment, and well, its lore, I suppose, doesn't actually make sense for the way the mod is, how the mod is done, but just because you have to conquer, you conquer planets and stuff like that. It's a war game. But anyway, so the reason it doesn't make a lot of sense is because the Pentastar Alignment is interesting because it was essentially a isolationist faction. It was created by Grand Moff Argus Kane and some corporations and some Imperial military officials, and basically he formed it from this thing that was called the Velkar Free Commerce Zone. He formed it, and then they basically, just to make a long story short, they formed it, and they just kind of sat there for quite a while. There was a point a few years after it was formed where Thrawn returns from the unknown regions and he takes control of the kind of the main empire, and late in Thrawn's campaign, the Pentastar Alignment finally sends some support to Thrawn, but then of course Thrawn gets immediately assassinated, or not immediately assassinated, he gets assassinated shortly thereafter. And so the support doesn't really matter, and they return to being isolationist for a little while until Palpatine comes back. Yes, Palpatine, for those that don't know, Palpatine does come back as a clone in Legends, similarly to how it's done in Disney canon, but it's pretty different in Legends. So, of course, I think all of the warlords help Palpatine. And during that conflict, Grand Moff Argus Kane, who is not currently here, which I'll go into in a second, who's not currently on the map, he gets killed, he gets assassinated, because this guy here, Octavian Grant, essentially at some point after the start of this map, or this start date, which is 4 ABY, 4 years after the Battle of Yavin, Octavian Grant has left Kane's service, and then he essentially betrays Kane, and then Kane gets assassinated by the New Republic. His shuttle gets attacked by New Republic fighters, and he gets killed. And then the Pentastar Alignment is kind of listless until it just gets absorbed into Gilad Paleon's Imperial Remnant. But the reason I think it's interesting is because even though they didn't do a whole lot, I mean, it's an interesting faction gameplay-wise, but for lore, it's interesting because the Pentastar Alignment really held this kind of area together. They weren't really fighting anyone. They weren't wasting resources on fighting the rebellion, or I should say the New Republic, because the New Republic just kind of left them alone, because there wasn't really anything, because they weren't doing anything. They weren't really seen as a threat. But what that allowed eventually, when it gets annexed into the Imperial Remnant, is it basically gives what's left of the Empire a good enough base to end up surviving, to actually be able to turn the war around just enough to get a peace treaty and end up surviving. Which I believe the Imperial Remnant essentially has. They don't have all of the territory. Here, the Imperial Remnant kind of has an area that's kind of like this. The Imperial Remnant is not very large at the end of the Galactic Civil War, but it ends up surviving, and then it expands later in the timeline. But that's by the by. Anyway, so what is the deal with this faction? I will bring up the start message, which is this. So this is from Grand Moff Argus Kane, who says, "Good day, Commander. The Pentastar Alignment of Powers welcomes your service, along with the members of Compnor and the Inquisitorius who have joined us. I am currently aboard my flagship, Reaper, to finish negotiations with local corporations in joining our new government. The talks will conclude shortly, but do not rest easy. We are the vanguard of the New Order, and the duty of eliminating its traitors fall to us." So, as it says there, Kane will join us in 3 cycles. Now, this has changed from previous versions of the mod, where Kane actually took a long time to come onto the map. In times past, he would not be on the map until like cycle 20 or something like that. It was a long time, relatively speaking. And the reason for that was because Kane used to come onto the map with Reaper, his flagship, which is an Executor class Superstar Destroyer, which is a serious piece of hardware. We can't build Executors, but we can build, each kind of Imperial faction gets their own kind of Superstar Destroyer, just to kind of differentiate them a little bit. We get up Mandator 3, but just to kind of look at the stat block there, just to kind of give you an idea of what the Executor is kind of like. it's not quite like this. This is obviously a different ship, but it's a very powerful ship. And you used to get it right at the start of the game. Very early versions, Kane started on the map with it, actually, and then our other kind of main hero here, Jarek, who is if I can stay on the thing, it says he's a Sith Lord, but he's technically like a Dark Jedi. It says he was a former master and, part of the Jedi Order after the Clone Wars. He was converted to the dark side and he was hunting down Jedi. And then his kind of big thing here is he was looking for the Valley of the Jedi. It says there, yeah. Valley of the Jedi. And he wanted to siphon its power from it so he could become more powerful. But anyway, Jarek also used to start with a Superstar Destroyer. He used to start with a Vengeance class, which has been taken away from him. He's now solely a ground unit. But you used to start as the Pentastar Alignment, and then one of the reasons it was classed as easy was because you started with 2 Superstar Destroyers. It was a very easy campaign. You start with neither, and you can't get neither, or you can't get either of them for quite a while, because the first one, or I should say, Jarek's Superstar Destroyer, the Vengeance, is now under a separate hero, Captain Sisko. And as you can see, it's quite pricey. 38,000 credits is pretty steep, and the Reaper is a fairly similar price, with no discount from an economic hero. So there's no Superstar Destroyers that we have right off the bat, which is good. It makes the Pentastar Alignment a little bit more of an interesting faction to play. But so that's kind of the lore, that's kind of the background, and so what is the faction? What does this faction do? I should explain just a little bit. So kind of to go with their lore, on ground, they're kind of a defensive faction. And so most Imperial factions have kind of a baseline infantry and then a better infantry option, unless you're Zinj. Zinj has 3 buildable infantry, and one of them is better than Stormtroopers, which are Raptor Troopers. But anyway, the Pentastar Alignment is kind of the opposite. They have 2 infantry units, and one of them are these Enforcer Trooper platoons, which I suppose the best way to explain them is they're kind of like military police, is I suppose the way I kind of understand them, is they're kind of like military police, because they're taking over, or they're kind of like a military police formation, or kind of like a militia kind of unit. They're not very good. They have very poor weapons. They only have plaster carbines, and they have a light anti-vehicle launcher and some concussion grenades. They are not very good. You get how many squads of them? I think you get 6 squads of them per unit. So there's a lot of bodies, but they're not very good. And then our mainline infantry unit are army troopers, and for most other factions, army troopers are the kind of baseline unit. Army troopers are not very good as far as infantry go. They're okay. They have better weapon spread than Pentastar enforcers, but that's I'd say one of the big weaknesses on ground for the Pentastar Alignment. Kind of going through some of the other stuff just kind of quickly here, because I realize I have been rambling for some time. We get AT-PTs, which are like an infantry walker. We get the AT-DPs, which are kind of like a anti-vehicle walker. They're quite good. We get TIE Maulers, which is a kind of light anti-infantry tank. We get UTAA, which is an anti-aircraft vehicle. We get heavy mobile artillery, which is it's a hover tank. It's an artillery hover tank. They're quite good. And then our kind of main tank are TIE crawlers. As it says, they're also called the sentry tank. They're not very tanky, not to make a pun intentionally. They just don't have a lot of health. They can die fairly easily, but they do pack a pretty good punch. We also get 2 air units. We get the GABA 18 air speeders, which, as it says there, it's like a reconnaissance police kind of air speeder, which is how I kind of use them, because I did play a practice game of Pentastar Alignment before making these videos. But they're good, they're fast, they're good for just kind of scouting out a map. And then there's the Nemesis class gunship, which is probably my favorite unit in the ground roster for the Pentastar Alignment. This gunship was in the Force Unleashed games, I believe. But it's a fairly strong gunship. It can chew through. I usually try to get 2 of them and drop both of them, and then they just kind of chew through everything. They're quite good in that regard. Let's see if I can find a different area with a slightly heavier factory. Okay, here's one. We also get the B5 Juggernaut, which is kind of like our heavy transport unit. It's not a combat unit, but it's mostly a transport unit. And then as our AT-AT analog, we get a C-10 siege tower, which the best way I can explain it is it's like a big mobile turret. Because what you do, and actually to give it to fire its main weapon, you have to actually like deploy it. So it's a big turret. It's a big turret, which kind of goes with the faction's defensive quality. They're okay, but this is kind of like our heavy defensive unit. This is like our heavy offensive unit. But anyway, moving to space, I'll go through our roster quickly. And this is not all the units we can get. There's other units we can get as well. We get VT-90, VT-49 squadrons, gunship squadrons. I don't know about building these. I tend to prefer just to build normal ships, but they don't look too bad as far as gunships go. The thing that makes the Pentastar Alignment unique is they're kind of like a fighter. They're a fighter-based faction. They have a lot of fighters. They have quite strong fighters. So, unlike most Imperial factions that have fairly weak fighters, the Pentastar Alignment actually has quite strong fighters, which is what makes them interesting. I really like that. They've always been like that, but it's a lot more focused now. We also get Raider 1s, which is kind of our light anti-fighter corvette. We have our heavy fighter corvette, which is the Tartan Patrol Cruiser, which I believe has the best point defense of any corvette in the game. We also get like our corvette, anti-ship corvette, which is the Buccaneer, which, as it says there, it's a CR9. It's essentially a CR90, but with heavier laser cannons, or in this case, turbo lasers. It has turbo lasers on it. We also get the Trenchant, which has some anti-fighter capability, but it's also it's kind of like an in-between to the Tartan and the Buccaneer. It's kind of an interesting looking ship too. And then of course, because we are the fighter faction, we get the Ton Falk, which is just a carrier. It's kind of like the Quasar that the New Republic gets. Our light frigate. We get the Victory 2, which I believe is a ship from the Battlefront 2, like old Battlefront 2, not new Battlefront 2. We get the Battlehorn bulk cruiser. It's just a bulk cruiser. We of course get the Dreadnought, a strong kind of tanky ship. We get for our kind of a repair ship, since I think every faction gets some kind of repair ship. We have the Imperial cargo ship, which is kind of interesting because it's a modified Munificent that's been like changed and modified into like a big cargo ship. But it's a fleet tender, as it says there. It repairs ships, repairs hardpoints. We have the Enforcer picket ship, which is actually quite a good ship. It's a unique ship to the Pentastar Alignment. And it's also really quite good because it has what is the ability called? It has a shield. I don't remember what the ability is called, but it has a shield. Has a shield ability that makes the shield stronger. As I have a brain fart. Our interdictor is the 418. That's kind of like the classic interdictor for the Empire. We have the Acclimator 1, also a very good ship. Also kind of fighter, or kind of like a carrier kind of focus. It's the assault loadout, so it has less fighters and bombers, but it still has quite a few of those, which kind of fits with the faction. And then we have the Precursator, or it's the Precursator. Precursator actually doesn't have fighters, but it's a good kind of line. It's a kind of like a small Star Destroyer. It's a good line ship. It can take a punch. And then we have our kind of like big carrier, which of course is the Venator. Quite a good ship. Not a good ship to get into fights with other ships, but it's good nonetheless. We also get the classic ISD-1, which, I mean, not much needs to be said. It's just a classic Star Destroyer. We get the Tector, which is like the ISD-1, but it essentially trades the hangar bays out for more weapons and armor. So kind of like a big. It's like this ship's. It's like the Precursor's big brother. And then we have a large carrier, which is the Secutor, which is essentially like a big Venator. And then we get the Praetor battle cruiser, or carrier battle cruiser. So the Praetor 2 is like a big. Well, it's a battle cruiser, so it's bigger than a Star Destroyer, but not as big as a Super Star Destroyer. It's quite a good ship. We get the kind of weird carrier version of that, which of course fits with the faction. Then, as I said previously, our non-unique Super Star Destroyer is the Mandator 3. And then of course there's Cisco. But I think finally, after I don't know how much rambling, I think that is enough. So a couple things for laws that I need to do. I'm going to get this company, Galentro, and then I'm going to get a barracks here, because Bastion is where we can get Inquisitors, with of course Jarek and then his apprentice Saris. What else? We're going to need to get mines on Munilist and Megiddo, and maybe
building cancelled.
That's not what I wanted to cancel. Yeah, I'll cancel the barracks and instead build the Officer Academy on this system. What the Officer Academy does is it will after like a period of time, it will essentially spawn minor heroes. So it will spawn like a fleet commander and a ground commander, and they'll have like a randomized unit. And they'll act as minor heroes, and they'll give command bonuses. And so those are good. I would say later in the game when you don't have like a lot of heroes, although I'd say that's less important now, because one of the big things and one of the reasons I chose an Imperial faction is because the Imperial factions have the Imperial legitimacy mechanic, which essentially is a point system. As you can see, like Maldrud has 39, Empire has 78, Raidu 36, we have 39, Zinj 41. And essentially what it does is by capturing planets or killing enemy heroes or holding on to specific planets, you kind of, it's essentially like a system of all of these Imperial factions jockeying to see who is the real Empire. So, I mean, you have the main Imperial faction, but all of these warlords also want to be the real Empire. And so essentially it's a civil war. It's an Imperial civil war, as the mod is named. And so kind of the main goal as these Imperial factions is to either, as the main Empire, it's to, rein in the warlords and reassert your authority over the galaxy. Or in the case of the warlords, it's to supplant the main Empire and kind of reform it under your particular government. And then, of course, there's Imperial integration, which, as it says there, if an Imperial faction is reduced to 3 planets and they have no leaders or heroes with the warlord trait, and no super star destroyers, they'll join the most legitimate faction remaining. And so the important thing is, and then there's Dark Empire stuff, which doesn't need to be said for right now. But with integration, all of these factions have certain rewards for integrating them. Maldrud or Crimson Command BSDs, and then of course the main empires like Stormtrooper platoons and stuff like that. And so another thing that we get with each point that we get, with kind of each legitimacy increase, we roll we kind of roll on a table of tiers of heroes. And so this is another interesting thing. And the reason I kind of said it wasn't as big of a deal to have those minor heroes necessarily is because we can get new heroes. And so, obviously there's, 5 tiers? Yeah, there's 5 tiers of what I'd say are progressively better heroes. But essentially you get, with each planet you take, or each enemy hero you kill, or each kind of thing you do as an Imperial in this campaign, you kind of get a roll. I think it's done as a kind of, like a kind of dice roll mechanic, with each legitimacy increase. And so you kind of roll, and if you get it, you can get like random groups of heroes, which can either be like this one, which is like stormtroopers, or it can be like vehicle heroes, or it could be like an economic hero and a space hero. It gets progressively better, better units, larger ships, the ability to build certain units. So like here, the Storm Commandos and the Imperial Escort Carrier. And then, of course, up here you can get some Super Star Destroyers. But then I think there's also, you can get, I think this is pronounced Tag, so like House Tag. And you get the Tag Battlecruiser, which is important or kind of interesting, because one of the heroes that we'll get at Cycle 3 is Ibdakit, and Governor Ibdakit has one of those battlecruisers, which is going to be important because our starting fleet is, how should I say, not very good. So one of the reasons I loaded up a few campaigns to kind of randomly, because the starting forces are randomly generated for the most part. Angst Minor seems to have a kind of like a normal garrison on it. We have our soul unit of stormtroopers there, Squad E, along with some Venators and a couple other ships we can't build. Those are Marauder cruisers, I believe. But anyway, so the reason I did that is get the Empire, and I'm sure the New Republic and some of the other factions as well, but we get some non-buildable kind of unique infantry units. And so because the faction is so lacking, I wanted some of these units not only to fill in some of the gaps, but also because they're unique and I wanted to show them off. So we have Army Guard platoons, which are like Army Troopers, but slightly better. We have Insect Operator platoons, which are essentially Imperial Intelligence Black Ops teams. They're really cool. There's only 10 guys per unit, but they're quite strong. Those are Army Troopers as well. We also have access to Army Commando platoons, which are what it sounds like. Those are Imperial Army Commandos. They are not as good as some other units, but I just need to figure out how to use them. And then there's our unique non-buildable elite infantry unit, which are the Guardian Protector platoons, which, as it says there, they're heavy agents within the Protectorate branch of the Pentastar Alignment. They consist of promoted Compnor security troopers, and so what those Compnor security troopers were is, to make kind of like a long story short, they were essentially like political, like actual like political kind of like officers and troops, and so they've been kind of repurposed in the Pentastar government as these highly aggressive kind of like bodyguard units, because that's kind of like their main goal or main thing is they're like bodyguard units for important officials in the government. But we have a collection of those. There's some around. We can't see them right now, but we also get Inquisitors, which are kind of like a Jedi equivalent unit. But anyway, so I think for building, that's all I'm going to be able to do because that's all the money I have. First order of business is I plan on taking these 4 planets here. So Ord Cantrell, Theta, Orinda, and then Adamar as kind of like a early defensive position against the Empire. And then I also plan to push over to Corvus Minor and Kutrek to take those planets because they're quite wealthy, and also that gives me like a defensive position against Zinj. It also weakens the Empire because the main Empire is of course the most legitimate, and so we need to weaken them first if we have any hope of becoming the main Imperial faction. I'll also probably hit this system here because it bottlenecks Zinj over here. But anyway, so first things first, we're going to need to get Octavian Grant, who I'll bring his thing up there, and then you can pause and read it. He's a very good admiral, command tier 2. And then we have another space hero who, these 2 guys for right now are only 2 like capital ships, which is another kind of interesting thing with the random starting units, but we also have Purdy Trico. So we are going to get our little collection of ships together.
Navigating.
Just bring some of these guys over.
Maneuvering.
That's still not a very large.
Moving.
Also bring this one over as well. Yeah, this is not. I will say this is not a really great fleet, but it's gonna have to do.
Tactical battle imminent.
So, alright, first battle, Ord Cantrell against the Empire. So anyway, like I was saying, the thing that makes the Pentastar Alignment kind of interesting is they are a fighter-based Imperial
Enemy
faction.
forces ahead.
So, let's see what we're dealing with here. We have a Golan 2 and a Golan 1, and then just a Carrack, which is just a little kind of frigate, and then some Lancers, which are...
Choose your reinforcements.
those are the best anti-fighter units in the game. Unfortunately, we don't get those. I would frankly love some Lancers, but the Tartan cruisers are good. They're just as good, and their
Heading to destination.
Their point defense bonus is fairly strong. Anyway, so we're gonna put
all ahead.
That there. Get the precursor there. So I'm gonna unpause just to kind of see where everything's going, and then
Heading out.
put the Venators kind of in the back.
For coordinates. Engines to full.
Put the bulk cruisers and then the dreadnought.
Location confirmed. Advancing. Confirmed. Right away.
Get the Ton Falk. I think that's probably all I'm going to need to bring in. But as you can see, we have this is a very, very kind of the Empire is going through some tough times. I know we're a warlord faction, but yeah, this is tough times for the Empire.
Choose your reinforcements.
Actually, I'm going to bring in some more stuff. I'm going to bring in some of these trenchants, because those are also point defense ships.
This way.
Gonna bring in that there. And bring up some of these buccaneers.
Moving into position.
So I'm gonna have to wait for all the fighters to come out, and then I will group those together. There we go. So
TIE Interceptor here.
This is
Interceptor squad
the Pentastar Alignment's, I'd say, strength.
For the
Empire.
For the Empire.
Are the fighters and bombers, and so we get some good ones. And now we'll start off with the bad ones. So we have some TIE GTs, which are technically ground targeting fighters, but as it says there, they're like the earliest versions of the TIE. They're not very fast, they're not very maneuverable, they're not very strong. We also, of course, get normal TIE fighters. We get TIE interceptors, which are quite good. We get TIE Defender Squadrons, which is a very good fighter. It's kind of like a fighter bomber, actually. We get Howl Runners, which you might say that's kind of a weird-looking Imperial fighter. It's quite a small fighter. It's quite fast, and the important thing is it's shielded. It actually, as it says, I think it says in the description here, it was not popular in the Galactic Civil War. But it has seen greater usage against the New Republic as Imperial resources have become more important. And so the kind of interesting thing is it fills the kind of same role as the TIE fighter. But since it has these since it's shielded, it's a much more complicated fighter. The TIE fighter is a cheap mass production fighter. The Howl Runner is a little bit more complex. But it's shielded. It's to kind of save resources in a lot of ways. So it's not, I'd say, as good as a TIE Interceptor damage wise, but it's a little bit more survivable than our normal TIE fighters. And then we have let's get the bombers selected. We have our bombers are also quite good. We have XG-1s, which is quite a good bomber. It's kind of like a multi-role bomber. We also have TIE Terror Squadrons, which is a very strong bomber. And then, of course, we have classic TIE bombers. I believe we also have somewhere in this, we have skip-ray blast boats, but
Bomber squadron reporting.
gonna send our bombers into the Golan 2.
Closing on target. Watch for enemy ships. Detected. Closing on target.
Fighter. Oh, there's our skip-ray blast boat. We'll send that into the thing as well. Alright, so I'm going to have
Star Destroyer standing
our
by.
precursor, I'm going to
Star
have
Destroyer reporting in.
Octavian Grant and Pretty
Engaging the
Trico
enemy. Reporting in. Copy
attack the
that.
station, and then we're going to have some of our smaller ships here
Cruiser here.
go on
Heavy cruiser standing by.
essentially mop-up duty.
Frequency open. Fire.
IPV reporting.
And just have our
Captain here.
little ships here.
Attack formation.
Just kind of have everyone move forward. This is not a very complex battle.
Taking them out. Go after the
They might actually even run.
Be around much longer.
I'm running out of maneuvers.
Back around for another run. Target critical. Squadron here. Engaging the enemy. Getting a lock.
What are the Venators doing? Come on, guys. Move forward.
I'm on them. Stay in formation.
I'm losing my engine.
Target lock. I got him.
So I'm gonna have Pretty Trico and this Dreadnought
Cruiser ready.
and the Victory 2 go after
Destroyed.
that stuff over there.
I'm on this one.
At your command.
He's headed your
I'm
direction.
gonna send the Buccaneers in after the station.
Your orders.
And along with that, I think we're
They're hitting us.
that Golan 2 is done for.
Reporting.
I'm just gonna send the Venators up over there.
Copy. Yes, Commander.
Yeah, this is not a complex battle,
Under control.
which is good.
Locking on. I've got them in my sights.
I know it looks like essentially we just kind of wiped the floor
Position. Target locked.
with this little Imperial garrison here, but it's not always going to be that easy.
Nowhere to run. Getting a lock. Ties reporting in.
Get the bombers over there.
Attack run. Coming back around for another. Closing on target.
Awaiting command. Yes, Commander. Enemies incoming.
And then that's it. Yeah, it's not always going to be that easy. I suppose luckily the Empire in the First Era, which the Empire currently is being led by Sate Pestage, which is he was the Emperor's Vizier, like Grand Vizier. So it's him in the ruling council, and needless to say, he's very ineffectual, and he will be getting overthrown somewhat quickly. But anyway, so now we have the space over Ord Cantrell, and so now we need to gather an actual army.
Acknowledged.
So we're going to gather up.
Moving out.
On my way.
Come on.
Construction
Receiving orders.
complete.
Didn't really want to do that, so we'll bring this
As you
over
wish.
there as well. Yeah, this is going to be kind of a doom stack, but gonna need it. The AI is, of course, taking a bunch of stuff. Does this really need anything? For right now, it's fine. I'll reorganize and the troops into a couple different groups probably after
Invasion commencing.
after the initial kind of like after the initial regional consolidation, I'll reorganize everything a little bit better. But until then, it's going to be kind of a slapdash kind of army. All right.
Reporting. Moving out.
All right.
Awaiting orders.
There we go. There's all of our army troopers
Advancing.
in
Ready.
all of their glory.
Squad, move out.
We have like a factory down there, so I'll go grab that.
Yes, sir. Roger.
I'll send, since the
away,
thing
sir.
wants us to capture the medical unit, which is up there. We'll grab that. And let's quickly drop in the gunships. I mean, these are actual like gunships. They're quite large, but we're gonna need them. We don't actually. That's on ground, as I think I kind of said. The Pentastar Alignment does not have a lot of really good offensive capabilities.
Lancet standing by. Engines
I'd say
activated.
our main ground offensive unit are these Nemesis gunships.
Reporting in.
What are we gonna get from here? Apparently armored assault tanks.
Roger that.
Run up, capture that.
Form up.
We can go over there.
Awaiting orders.
Aerial artillery reporting. Receiving orders.
So we'll capture that. Drop in the artillery. And what else? I'm gonna want Noda
I am
and
en route.
our sole AT-AT. I'm gonna throw in the siege tower, which, like I was saying, it's a big turret. I wasn't joking.
Destination set.
That's literally what it is. And then we'll get some AT-DPs, which I know were in the Rebels
Copy.
series, but I don't know if they were in anything else. Oh, interesting.
Ready to destroy the clones.
Wow. That's kind of interesting.
We made it. Wow, we really killed
I copy.
him.
That's kind of interesting. We have we found
Hey, don't leave.
a factory.
Tactical adjustment.
A factory with some old Clone Wars droid tanks.
Reload your nav program.
Juggernaut ready.
That's interesting. I'll
Awaiting your orders.
make use of those.
by.
Deploy the artillery.
Yes, sir. Ready to go.
Secured an abandoned turbo
Scouting.
laser tower. Turret constructed.
Reporting. Order acknowledged. Yes, Commander.
So we haven't seen any of them yet.
Ready.
Which
It's arming.
Choose
is a bit surprising, honestly. Would have thought would have seen some of them by now.
We've located the enemy.
Oh,
Ready to receive
there's
orders.
some of them. Just some scout bikes. Getting a little bit of frame loss, but that's fine. Oh, yep, there they are.
Uh-oh. Calculating attack.
Oh. Let's pull these guys back. That one's probably not going to survive.
Roger, roger.
Construction ready. Complete.
Yep, that is deployed.
Your orders.
Come on, Noda, don't turn around.
Awaiting orders.
Our little ATD or ATAPs. Was it not ATAPs? ATPTs. Sorry. Just a tiny little walkers, but they're kind of cool because they have point defense.
On my way.
Ready to destroy the clones.
Armed and ready.
Gonna need to move this up
Destination set.
because we're gonna slowly advance.
I am ready.
Always ready, sir. Scanning area.
We made it.
Comlink active.
Affirmative. Ready. On my way.
Bring that up as well.
Roger that. As you
Let's
wish.
kind of send the gunships forward, see what we
Squadron moving
see.
out. Lancet proceeding.
I think we probably
Command
killed
received.
most of their
Attacking.
starting forces, although we just found a bunch of tanks. All right, so
Right away.
Attack.
I really don't want to lose one of these gunships. That'd be real bad.
Moving out.
Artillery online. I copy.
Let's deploy that. Really wish I had something with
What is your order?
ping.
Deploying stormtroopers.
I don't think he actually deploys stormtroopers. Oh yeah, he deploys
Reporting in.
more ATPTs, which are a very small walker. I mean, you can see how tiny they are
As you
compared
command.
to Noda's AT-AT, which he continuously tries to
Form up.
turn around.
Awaiting orders. Heading out.
Kinda wish.
Wow, we really killed him.
Roger that. Scouting area.
Armed and ready.
Form up. Awaiting
Kinda
orders.
wish
Let's go.
we had some ATPT,
Copy.
or not
Right
ATPTs,
away.
some GABA 18s or something that could ping.
Yes, General. Acknowledged. Copy. Destination ahead.
Reporting in.
Just some chariots.
What are your orders?
Ready to destroy the clones.
At your
I think the clones are no longer around.
Moving out. Yes, sir. Heading out. Yes, Commander.
We're also going to need another repair point down there, probably.
Standing by. Excellent suggestion. I copy. Reporting. Let's move out.
awaiting orders.
Get that deployed.
The fight's not over. Scanning vehicle.
Ready. Yes, sir. Ready to go.
Let's
Awaiting orders.
bring
Always ready,
those.
sir.
Actually, what am I doing? I'll just send them back.
We made it.
Money is
Affirmative.
kind of tight. I
Let's
shouldn't
move
be
out.
just
Roger that. Order acknowledged.
Copy.
spending so much of it
Ready.
on repair towers on a system that's
Reporting in.
really not
Inputting
going to be
coordinates.
that big
Yes,
a
sir.
deal. I very much doubt we're going to get
Form
invaded
up. Keep going. Awaiting
here,
orders.
although, you know, it's
Yes,
never say
Commander.
never.
Let's go.
Reporting. Form up.
Ready.
Ooh, that's anti-air. That's anti-air. Run away.
This way.
Run away.
Copy. This way.
I'm here, sir.
Um,
Reporting in, sir.
I copy. Over there.
let's send those guys down to kill the AA.
Lancet standing by.
Reporting. Engaging enemy.
Next thing
Aerial
is,
artillery
once those are
reporting.
healed up, I'm going to try and send them in so
Scouting.
Ready to receive your transmission.
I'm going to try and send them in so I can get vision on the enemy base so I can start using
Awaiting orders. Moving to position. Yes, Commander. On my way. Ready. Scanning area.
Wow, we really killed him.
I copy. Proceeding.
I read you.
You need to go up there.
Destination is acknowledged.
So I can get
Ready
vision
for orders.
and start bombarding them, start getting rid of the base, because I think we have actually cleared out.
Reporting.
Copy. Moving to
The
coordinates.
main
Awaiting
kind of
order. Yes, sir. On the move.
At the ready. Over there.
any actual like bought or paid for ground units.
Engines activated.
So that's the light factory. That's really not that big of a deal. I'm looking for other stuff. Like that.
Squadron moving out.
Take that out, and then
Ready to
bring
receive
in the
orders.
bombers.
Lancet proceeding.
Commence attack run.
That's another cool thing about this mod is and I don't know if that's like a base game kind of thing, but it actually like shows the
Targets
bombers
engaged.
being, of course, what I mean is it's not just TIE bombers. We actually have the XG-1s that come in for our bombing run, at least with this particular fleet.
Command received.
Ready for duty. Ready to go.
Getting a little bit of a flank going on here. Oh, and they're
Comlink
retreating.
active.
So, successful first battle, even though I'm kind of blundering through it. I haven't, even though I did a test game, I haven't actually played in a little bit. Let's see here.
System control achieved.
And unfortunate, we did not get a legitimacy group.
Building started.
But it's fine.
Beginning construction.
We'll get the space station and the Moth Palace. Oh. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, so you can see minor groups. So those minor integration groups, as these other factions are taking stuff, they're getting these groups. So looks like we haven't gotten one, Zinj hasn't gotten one, but the main Empire and Pterodok have. And so we don't want that, obviously. We want some of those groups for our own, and so we're going to send the fleet to Theta.
Construction complete.
Looks like there might be a little bit of a larger Imperial presence here. This is an important planet because it kind of choke points. It's a big kind of choke point planet. It also gives us it gives us another opening with Zinj, which at the start of the game, I'd say Zinj is the strongest.
There they are! Blast them!
At least strongest warlord faction. Although I say a little bit more of a challenge, but honestly, that's debatable. They have one victory one with which is the Triumph. Actually, not a half bad name for a Imperial ship.
Move out.
So we'll put Grant there. We will put Bertie
shall be there
Trico
shortly.
there. We'll put
Confirmed.
the Acclimator.
At once.
Put
Setting course.
the Venators.
Right away.
Heading out, sir.
The
Positioning.
Enforcers. We'll put the
Calculating
Precursor
jump to
right
light
there.
speed.
We'll
All
just
ahead.
throw that there.
Moving out. Heading out.
Just
Fall
kind
out.
of sprinkle in.
Location confirmed. Location confirmed. Location confirmed.
Some of those, and that is probably good enough for this. Sorry, Triumph, but you picked a bad time to get lost.
Awaiting your orders. Awaiting your command.
Move Grant and Pretty Trico up. Oh, there's the enemy fleet. Or enemy call-in. It's just some dreadnoughts again. Not that big of a deal. Our fighters should spawn in right now. I'm not going to really bother grouping them together.
Orders, sir.
I will get our bombers
Changing course
just to go
intercept.
right after
Ready for command, sir.
that, and then I will get our
Squadron standing
fighters
by.
kind of attacking some stuff.
Sir,
Ready up. Let's finish him.
And they're retreating, which is fine. They can do that. They have no paid-for units here left anyway. It was just the Triumph. Kind of curious. Oh, we have the Majestic. That's a good name for a ship. For a Venator called the Majestic, that's a solid name. All right, so I think for the first episode, even though I will say I'm going to be kind of bulk recording a bunch of episodes, so I'm going to cut off the first Pentastar episode here, but I'm going to essentially just continue playing. So just be aware of that if you've watched the first episode, the second episode is going to be, right back to back with it. So, if you have any questions or anything on the first episode, it's not going to take effect until sometime in the future, past episode 2. So anyway, it's good to be back. I hope those of you that have decided to watch my videos, I hope that you are pleased that I'm making a return to making videos. I hope you have enjoyed the videos, the videos in general, but this new video and this new series. Yeah, so got some of the kind of background stuff done. Got, of course, our first planet taken. We got Ord Cantrell. We're going to be taking Theta at the start of the second episode. After that, we'll move to Arinda, and then probably take Adamar, and then we'll swing over, take Selagus, and then Kutrick and Corvus Minor. But that's the plan. I don't know how long I will do the Pentastar Alignment series. Ideally, my main focus is going to be on the Divide and Conquer series, because those are quite a bit of a long form. I also just don't know how long this series is going to go for, mostly because the 3.4 version of Thrawn's Revenge looks like it's going to be fairly soon. So I don't know how long this series is going to go. It's probably not going to be taking all 158 planets. I'll probably play this one until they're gotten to a good point where it's just kind of like no longer a challenge anymore. If it goes that long, or if the mod update comes out, and then I may just do a separate series if I feel like this series gets enough support and if there's enough people interested. But anyway, I thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. The first episode of the Pentastar Alignment series. Yeah, and obviously, like I always say, leave a comment if you want to comment something. Questions, criticism, what have you. I do enjoy reading comments. Let's see here. Of course, if you like the video, I'd appreciate a like. It does help for a channel like mine growing, or a growing channel. It's important. And, I'm not going to, I know a lot of people are like, oh, like, comment, and subscribe. I know I just said, the first kind of two parts of that. But, you don't have to subscribe if you don't want to. But I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the views. If you, just let me know if you enjoyed the video or not. I want these things to be enjoyable. But anyway, that's going to be it for the first episode. I hope if you watched it to this point, I hope all of you have a great day.